flossing versus snagging, feeding versus aggression hits. Do the fish bite? Do they not bite? There's a lot of different questions to be answered here. So I'm going to start by saying that, for the record, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, yes, the salmon do hit. Now, I'm going to specify most of the time it's not a feeding hit. They're not here to feed. They're at the end of their life cycle. They're not trying to sustain life. You can get them to aggression hit. When I say things like this, and people come in and they ask me, what are they hitting on? Most of the time, my answer is they're not really. And that's the truth. Most of the time they aren't. And most of the time, people that are asking that question are beginners. They're not, they're not experienced. They haven't been here for a while. And I want to give them honest information so that they're not going out there expecting a salmon to, hit their line and take the rod right out of their hand. They need to know what to expect. People that go out and, are watching everyone hook into fish and they're saying, well, what's that person doing? What are they using? The fish is, hitting their bait. I need whatever bait that they have. I'm telling them most of the time, it's more about what they're doing than what they're using. Most of the time, the people that you see out there are flossing the fish, which, again, this is my opinion, but I define flossing as snagging with accuracy. That's just how I see it. When you describe flossing, it's putting the line basically right across their mouth and hooking them with it. They're not taking it as, like a steelhead or a brown trout would or something like that, which those fish are actually feeding. So there's touchy ground here. And when beginners go out and they see people hooking all of these fish, and I tell them, this is me speaking to the majority of people. Now, are there some that are going out there and actually taking a fly and, teasing the fish and getting an aggression hit? Absolutely. That is not the majority. For beginners that are going out and seeing fish hooked left and right, I want them to know that most of the time those fish are being flossed or sometimes just outright snagged. So that's something I need people to know going into this so they know what to expect. Now, is that legal? No, it's not. The lifting, snagging, anything like that is not legal. But again, I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that's what's being done a lot of the time. If you're listening to this and you just got very offended at what I said, this video probably isn't for you. I'm not talking to you. You are one of those small percentages that I'm talking about that is very experienced and has put the time in and is getting the fish to hit. There is a trade-off there for beginners that come in and they only want to spend, they only have a couple days here, or they just want to go home with fish. Flossing is probably the technique they're going to use. For those who come here and they want to put the time in and they're okay with, having less hookups than some other people, maybe. I'm not saying, again, don't get worked up. I'm not saying that they always do. Some people might be very good at what they do and they've perfected it, and over the years they've put the time in and they're able to get those aggression hits. For the majority, which is who I'm speaking to, of people, of beginners, that is not what's going on. Now, there are things you can do with a simpler technique to get aggression hits. Not throughout the entire river. I'm talking about certain areas in the river. There are things you can do to get the fish to actually hit out of aggression. Now, that's not something I have done a lot of, so I have a special guest in this video. For the first time, I'm bringing someone else on. It will be my friend Dave, who has been a guide on this river for many, many years. He's a good friend. He knows what he's talking about. Very technical, probably knows the rule book, the special regulations that it probably takes a PhD to decipher for the rest of us. He's gone over that with a fine-tooth comb and knows them very well, so I defer to him for a lot of things when I have questions on the specific guidelines. But we're not getting into that right now. Right now, what I'm going to do is switch over to some different video that I took of Dave, where he's explaining a specific technique and bait that you can use to get aggression hits out of these kinks.
Special regulations show that we can use single hook floating lures in the river. They have certain restrictions. You can't have any treble hooks, so this one would be an illegal lure on the river. You can use those in the lake and everywhere else. In the river, you have to have a single hook point. It can only have up to a 5/8 inch gap from the point to the shaft of the hook, and that hook has to swing freely off the back or the middle of that lure.
So you just talked about, you said those are the J13s?
Correct.
So you can obviously do this with other types of lures as well. So what are some other ones you'd be able to do this with?
Any floating lure can be changed to a single hook setup. Popular lures here and that attract the king's attention are the quick fish, thunder sticks, bay rats, any of the larger wide wobbling plugs. Reef runners are another good example.
Okay. And what about spoons?
Spoons are a gray area. There's nothing that says you can't use them as long as it has a single hook. I haven't seen anything that says you can. It's kind of a gray area. We've also seen people using spinners with single hooks in the river too, and I haven't heard of anybody having any problems with that, as long as you stick to that 5/8 gap and a single hook point.
So why isn't this something that would be as effective in the faster water, or why wouldn't you want to use this more in the faster water?
Well, in the faster water, it's not deep enough to run a lot of these lures. They'd be getting hung up in the rocks and that on you. It's definitely just a larger pool application.
Yeah, you probably don't want to be wasting a like $15 lure on a snag at the bottom of the river.
Exactly.
Okay.
Usually when you're in those pools, you're not going to get snagged up.
Okay, got it.
So with a single hook on these lures, you can use it in one of two ways. One, you can put it off the tail where it'll swing freely. Also, you can set it off of a set of bead chain. The only difference is your hook point can't be more than 3.5 inches from your body of your lure. That there is about 2.5 inches. That's plenty. That will definitely help you catch fish.
Okay, so Dave, how would someone fish that setup? Would you be using the same setup you would use on the river, like a noodle rod with monofilament, or do you have to change anything up?
No, you can use whatever equipment you have now. Spinning gear is the best because you want to cast and retrieve these across the larger pools. Try to start with 12 to 15 pound test and go from there. Anywhere there's a large body of water that's moving slow and you can see fish swimming around, cast across them and retrieve that through, and they will chase it and bite it.
And is it like a slow retrieve, fast retrieve, play around with it?
It's a slow to medium retrieve. You want to get the maximum wobble out of that plug as you can because that's part of what instigates these fish into striking.
Okay, so you'd be fishing deeper pools with that then?
Yes.
It's not something you would want to bring to, say, like the ballpark or faster parts of the river.
Ballpark would be a little slow. Bigger pools similar to the Sportsman's, the schoolhouse pool, town pool would be a great spot for it. Any larger bodies like that.
Okay, and I'm assuming you would need a little room to work. It's not like you're not using a big drift on it. Are you just casting out and pulling straight back in, or is that something you want to try and sweep an area with?
That is just strictly a cast and retrieve, so you're not going to bother any of the bottom bouncers. These lures only run 3 foot deep, so you're going to be over the top of all of their gear.
Okay, now for the giveaway part. Starting this Friday, October 7th through Monday, October 10th, every day the first person to come into my store and show me that they shared this video on their Facebook page and tag 3 of their friends that they think would like it can come into my store and show me, and they get one of these lures that we were talking about in the video already set up with a single swinging hook ready to go and use in the river. So again, come in and show that to me. The first person on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, every day to come in and show me that, gets a free lure. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all soon.